Good evening, old school Texas Tech. Hope everybody is doing well. I wanted to give myself about 48 hours after that debacle the other night called the football game before I kind of came on and gave everyone my analysis of what happened in the game, just my reaction, sort of human reaction, and then just from observing the press conferences and everything, the fallout, so to speak. So as the game was winding down, at one time I used to love movies. I don't really watch movies too much anymore. I don't really have time. But there was a movie that came out. I think it was like 20 years, probably more than 20 years ago, about the Cuban Missile Crisis called 13 Days. And in that movie, Kevin Costner, they're in some sort of heated meeting with President Kennedy's national security team in the movie, and he walks out and he tells JFK and RFK. Costner's character says, "Call me Irish, but I don't believe in cooler heads prevailing." And I don't know, for some reason I thought of that as Wyoming converted that 2 point conversion and sealed the deal in overtime. It was a devastating loss for Texas Tech. I know there's been a lot said today and yesterday. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to be fine. To an extent, that's true. I'm not in either camp. I'm not in the doom and gloom camp. I don't think the season's over. I still think we can achieve respectability, which to me would be a bowl invite and a bowl win. I'd have to see a lot more to still believe that we could seriously contend for a Big 12 title game, even a title game appearance. But we'll see. Maybe I'll be surprised. I doubt it, but maybe I'll be surprised. So as after the game, as I was going to sleep late Saturday night, it was definitely a later night than I anticipated. You guys probably felt the same way. One of the first things that came to my mind is that since Joey Maguire took the Tech job, he has not been through any adversity with the fans like he's going through this week. We don't none of us know enough in terms of what's going on in the locker room every day with the Texas Tech football program. I'm sure he's been through some serious adversity since he's had the job. But at least publicly, in terms of interacting with the fans, he has not been through this level of adversity. So I wanted to. One of the things I was really interested to see is how he would respond. And I think he's responded very well. I'll give him a solid A. So I watched both his press conferences today, yesterday. I just needed to take a breather from Texas Tech football. It doesn't happen very often, but I did yesterday. um, so I listened to. I'll talk about the one right after the game second, but he talked. Just his regular Monday press conference was today, and he talked about how his wife was trying to talk him out of looking at social media as he was boarding the plane to fly back to Texas. He refused to do that. He wanted to see what the fans were saying. I think that's significant. And the reason why I think it's significant is I think the last three coaches, as much as I liked Matt Wells and Cliff Kingsbury, I love both those guys. I think they're both good men. I don't know what to really to think about Tommy Tuberville, to be honest. But anyway, Matt Matt Wells and Cliff Kingsbury and Tommy Tuberville could not communicate or understand Tech fans in their tenures at the school. It's surprising. I think it's surprising that Kingsbury couldn't, but that could be a whole nother video. But Joey Maguire knows he understands Tech fans and he knows how to talk to Tech fans. And so I thought that it was significant that he wanted to see what the fan base was saying because he wanted to understand, how we were feeling. And I thought that was really significant. And he mentioned in the press conference that for fans like us, like old school Texas Tech fans in the group, the season ticket holders, people who live in Lubbock who can go to the games, they can afford to go to the games, they can buy tickets and go to people, those of us who try to go to bowl games or go to games when they're playing near us. He said those fans have every right to say, whatever they want to say. He said that the fair weather fans, the fans that aren't going to even, tune in next week because we had a bad start, we have a ranked opponent come to Lubbock. And he said the fair weather fans don't have a right to say what they were saying on social media, and I think that is really significant that he said that. It meant a lot to me because we do as diehard fans we did have a right to be upset about that game. We should be upset about that game, and as I watched his post game press conference, he was really upset, and I love seeing that. I will never forget for the rest of my life. A couple years ago, I think it was during the COVID year when we basically had UT pretty much we had UT defeated in a game that year, and just through some bad coaching and some bad luck, if I remember correctly, but definitely bad coaching too. We let Texas come back and win that game, and I'll never forget Matt Wells came into the locker room afterwards and said something along the lines of, "Man, that was one incredible college football game." And of course the fans were furious. We want answers. We want people at that point, we want people to lose their jobs. And we're those of us who are avid weekly viewers of Texas Tech football, we're a very intense crowd, and Joey Maguire is a very intense guy, and it just highlights the difference between himself and his three predecessors for sure. So I thought that was I give him an A for his response. I want to get a couple things out of the way before I talk about what I thought about the defense and the offense, and just sort of some general impressions from the game on Saturday night. Our kicking situation is a disaster. I was listening to the pregame, and the announcers were joking around about, I don't really understand it, but maybe it was in the spring, but at some point, Gino, the kicker, was in some sort of wine tasting class, which of course I have no problem with that. But at some point in his time at Tech, he was in a wine tasting class right before football practice, and nobody knew about it. He failed to tell the coaches about it, and obviously wasn't doing well after that. And the pregame guys do a great job. They thought that was hilarious, and they thought it was really funny. I actually did not find it funny before the game, and I really did not find it funny after the game. And I just don't know if he's the right guy to be our kicker. I don't like his something about his demeanor that I don't like. I hope he turns it around. I'm pulling for him, but I just didn't see the level of intensity I would like to see from a kicker. I just something's off there. I think we have more serious kicker problems than the coaches are admitting publicly. Refs were a disaster. We have a couple ex officials, I believe, on the old school Texas Tech group. There are clearly some bad calls, but the kicking and the officiating, neither one of them should have been an excuse. Even with bad officiating and even with something going on with our kicker, we should not have lost that game. Worst case scenario, we should have won that game by 10 to 14 points. I still stand by that. We're a superior team, and we should have won that game by 10 to 14 points. There are no excuses in my view. Tim DeRuyter, was really impressed with him during his press conference. I always like to hear him talk. Um, not that Maguire's a great coach, not that he's unqualified or anything like that, but he's only been a head coach for 14 games at the college level. And so Tim DeRuyter is kind of the old hand amongst the head coach and the two coordinators, and I felt like he was giving us some clear answers of what went wrong defensively, and I thought they played okay on defense. And he mentioned that they were able to get some pressure That quarterback, no offense to him, he played really hard. I actually admire how hard he played, but that Peasley is not a good college quarterback. We made him look like a good college quarterback. But we were able to get pressure on him, and then we were leaving these wide open running lanes. So he was always able to get out of the pressure. They just weren't playing fundamentally sound, in terms of the pass rush and trying to contain him. Just should not have happened. But I thought DeRuyter was giving some really good specifics, some X's and O's. What he seemed the most concerned about were injuries. I did not, because I didn't read the news yesterday. Isaac Smith out for the year. That's not good. I guess he has a partially torn ACL, and they're just going to go ahead and I guess they're going to go ahead and have surgery or do what they need to do so that he'll be ready for the future. Is what it sounds like. I didn't double check his classification, but sounds like he's out for the year. Then Jacob Rodriguez out 4 to 6 weeks with some sort of foot injury. So the bottom line is not only do we have a really good ranked opponent coming in Saturday, which Jordan and I'll talk about Thursday, but we're going to be playing. We're going to be playing with younger guys with a reshuffled defense, and that you could see the concern on DeRuyter's face. But he's been a resourceful defensive coordinator since he's been at Tech, so I wouldn't count him out by any means. And I give him a high B+, A type grade for his response to this game as well. I think he too, in a way, at least at an assistant level, at the coordinator level, I think he knows how to talk to Tech fans too. And I can't tell you how refreshing that is because the last coaching regime really did not know how to communicate with our fan base at all. So that's the reason why I keep mentioning that. Kitley, Tech royalty. He should be Tech royalty. His father. I don't know anything about track and field, but his father is a incredible coach. I think that what Kitley has accomplished in his own right under Kingsbury when he was working with Pat Mahomes. And even last year, I thought he did a good job. I think he's a really bright young coach that's got a bright future. And I'm glad that we have him on the team. I'm glad that that he's going to be a part of the rest of the season. However, I think he called an absolutely horrible game Saturday night. Absolutely horrible. I have no idea why, after getting up 17 points on the road in an opener, again against an inferior opponent, that may anger some people for if I say that, but it wasn't. Why the Wyoming Cowboys were not as good as they're not as good as the Texas Tech Red Raiders. They were better on the scoreboard because of mistakes that we made. Anyway, we're up 17-0. You have Taj Brooks, Cameron Valdez, the entire coaching staff spent the entire summer bragging about having 9 offensive linemen and how many starts they've had, cumulatively throughout their career. And their excuse for not running the football is that we weren't the offensive linemen were not following through with their blocks enough. So, my question is, why don't you make an in-game adjustment? Why don't you pull a couple of those guys, a couple of starters who aren't, following through on their blocks? This is an important football game. This is not some sort of like middle school politics. Pull those guys and put, a couple of the backups in, at least for a series or two, and see if they'll follow through with the blocks. It just seemed like Kitley was making a lot of excuses. He defended himself by saying we ran the ball 33 times, but a lot of that was the quarterback. And if he just would have stayed patient with that, I mean, Wyoming has a good defense, but they basically have 4 good defensive players. They have 2 good inside linebackers, really good inside linebackers. They have one good defensive end, and they have 1 good nose tackle. There's no reason why we should have had less than 100 yards against them. We should have rushed for over 200 yards against them. Had we done that, then it would have opened up the passing game later on. I just think he called a terrible game, and I hope he gets better at calling plays really quickly, because we have a really good team coming to town Saturday. So yeah, I give Maguire and DeRuyter a thumbs up for their response to a really, really bad opening loss in Laramie. I'm frustrated with Kitley, but I still think he's a bright young coach. And again, I think expectations need to shift to more of a game by game approach. Let's get to 6 wins. Let's get to a bowl game and try to win a bowl game. If we happen to get to six quicker than anticipated, then we can start talking about some other things. But I think we've all gotten a little ahead of ourselves, including me. We need to be focused, just on the game ahead, and we'll go from there. I'll be back on Thursday with Jordan, and we'll do a preview of a very good Oregon team. Have a good night.